Social Development and Life Reflection Throughout the Lifespan. A presentation by Ashley, Connor, and Serge. Social development occurs throughout the lifespan. It begins in infancy and childhood, continues into adolescence, and as we evolve into adults. Our social lives, how we react to the social world, and how well we are incorporated into it will ultimately affect the type of individual we become. Throughout our lives, our social surroundings play an important role in how we will develop. This process begins in the phase of our lives from birth until late childhood. During this phase, the most important social factor in our lives is our parents and families. This relationship will help to determine our degree of socialization based on its success or failure. In infancy, our first social act is our ability to form attachment to our parents. Attachment is a social bond between infant and caregiver that expands both space and time. The social and emotional bond that is created is very important to an infant and later to the child's social development. There are 5 behaviors that foster attachment. These are sucking, cuddling, looking, smiling, and crying. Each of these behaviors will help to define attachment, which can then be studied to determine their quality. The nature of attachment between mother and infant can be described as either successful or unsuccessful. In infants and children who have successfully attached to their caregiver, we see secure attachment and a child that has developed successfully in a social context. However, when a child is unsuccessfully attached, we begin to see other less secure types of attachment, such as resistant, avoidant, and disoriented. The type of parenting chosen by a caregiver also has an effect on the nature and quality of a child's attachment. Parents with an authoritarian parenting style tend to have independent and happy children. However, parenting styles such as authoritative, submissive, and indifferent tend to produce unhappy, dependent, unsocialized children. During infancy and childhood, the idea of gender and the role it plays in social development begins to surface. Children begin to identify with a specific gender identity, being either male or female, and they begin to take on their gender roles. Most of the time, this is shaped by the common beliefs and stereotypes of their culture. However, it is possible for a child to veer off the stereotypical path. Many psychologists believe that gender identity is based on both biological and cultural qualities. These being the inherent biological differences between boys and girls and how their culture separates the two. After the acquisition of a gender identity, the child must learn the rules of morality. 2 psychologists with theories on this issue are Jean Piaget and Lawrence Kohlberg. First, Piaget believed there were 2 stages of moral development: moral realism, defined by self-centeredness and blind adherence to rules, and morality of cooperation, defined by empathetic understanding and the idea that rules are social conventions and can be altered by mutual consent. Second, Kohlberg believed there were 3 stages of moral development: the pre-conventional stage, based on punishment, based on obedience, and the conventional stage, based on maintaining good relations and social order, and the post-conventional stage, based on morality of ethical principles. After we have passed the phase of our lives as infants and children, we enter into a new phase known as adolescence. In this stage of development, our lives are almost entirely based on forming an identity and gaining positive self-perception. As Erikson would put it, we are experiencing a series of crises throughout our lives, and at this stage, it takes the role of identity versus role confusion. The success of solving these crises will determine our social development. According to Marcia, adolescents experience different degrees of crisis and commitment. How they deal with these determine their identity status. If a crisis has been experienced, they can either be classified as identity achiever by making a commitment, or mauritarian by not making a commitment. However, some adolescents never experience crisis. In this case, they can be classified as either foreclosure by making a commitment, or identity diffusion by not making a commitment. Those who achieve identity have more successful social development than those who don't. This is because they have a positive self-perception. Gaining personal identity allows for self-concept and self-esteem. In healthy social development, once you have reached personal identity, you move on to the final stage of life, which is adulthood and old age. At this point in our lives, our main goals are gaining success in our relationships, pursuing goals, and gaining personal acceptance through success. Our evaluation of our romantic relationships comes from our success in marriage and raising a family. Our success in pursuing goals and gaining personal acceptance comes mostly from our careers and accomplishments. Once all of these aspects have been achieved, we can evaluate social development through the lifespan. In old age, life review is normally seen as looking over life events and evaluating your time spent. However, it is also important to know reflection of life's events can occur in other stages of life. At these points, it is usually to help gain identity or help for a crisis. Life reflection allows us to analyze our lives. This allows for personal expansion and self-discovery, the main goals of social development. Our social lives and surroundings are two of the most important factors shaping who we become as individuals.